by the way.
What's going on, folks? We are live with another episode of Adventure Talk Live. So, if you haven't seen this before, this is just kind of a little segment on the channel where instead of being in the context of a video or a trip or whatever, it's just where we kind of hang out. We pop a cold one, just kind of talk. Sometimes it's just kind of free form. We just talk about whatever the hell we want. Sometimes we have specified topics, but it's all kind of themed around adventure, right? Travel, hunting, camping, just all this stuff that we all love. So today I've got Nate joining me, and we recently went on a hunting and camping trip out in West Texas. So we're going to kind of talk about some topics today that hopefully are interesting, but also kind of relive and tell some stories from that trip. So, Nate, welcome.
Hey, man, good to see you. Cheers to you.
Cheers. I'm drinking a Corona today. I think that's
Mm.
acceptable, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. I had a good time. I was fun to go back and be in your neck of the woods. That was a heck of a lot of fun. I was so excited when I got this new piece of gear in like the day before we left. It was awesome. It was FedEx for the win. They said it was going to be like in like 3 days after I got back, whatever. But I got this in. This is my new,
Badlands.
yeah, that's my new rig for binos. It's actually like I literally haven't cleaned it out since the trip, so hopefully there's no like bugs or anything. But hopefully nothing like took a ride home with me. But it's awesome. And it has two side pockets. I think I have like toilet paper and a headlamp, and I think I might have taken my a call out of there, but it has this small pocket for a rangefinder that's like silent because it's got like the magnets thing going there. It's got this top big pocket, which I
Nice.
have a grunt call in. Kind of snuck that in. I got my new binos on like a little tether,
Oh,
the
I saw a
loophole.
little L in there. There's a VX1.
Yeah, I think so. And
Nice.
so that was cool. I got them on deal at Bass Pro like the week before we left,
It
and
was their, what do they call it? Their big fall hunting sale where they always like, what do they call, outdoor classic or something like that. Maybe that's what.
something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, they're the same. I know you're about to say that's something like that's like what
that's what
Cabela
Cabela's
does, but it's
called
the
it.
same
But
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now they're in like the Flocktoberfest or something like that. And then it's so back to this thing though. It's got this really cool pouch too that I could put my phone in or what we needed while we were out there because it was hot and muggy. Thermocell.
Freaking bug zapper.
Yeah. It was, and so this is awesome. So I've gone the whole spectrum. I've gone from guy who was a newbie who didn't have everything and said, "Hey, can I please borrow your stuff?" to the guy who had everything and way more than he needed. And now I'm kind of at the point where I'm upgrading some gear where I'm going like, okay, what do I actually need? I have some experience. I have some like knowledge of like what I actually need in the woods. Like, let me go like more minimalistic and carry just what I need. So this is perfect. I can just like put it on my chest and I'm really mobile with it. I don't like bump into like random mesquites or, cactus or junk because I have so much stuff. So I like it.
Nice.
It's a good
Yeah,
pickup.
that's a nice setup. So,
Yeah.
question for you: before you pick this up, did you watch the world's best? What did I call it? The world's best bino chest rig or bino harness or bino setup, whatever. Did you watch that video?
No, but I was on a turkey hunt with you when you had it.
Oh, okay. So you basically saw
Same,
the
same.
exact same. Yeah, you saw
I lived
it
it.
in real life instead of me just looking into a camera yammering about it. Well, no, I just think it's interesting because like your setup basically is like it does the exact same thing mine does. I think just in every instance you picked a different brand. I mean that's not neither good nor
Sure.
bad. I think they're
Yeah.
all. I mean, obviously, Loophole knows how to make binoculars, and Badlands knows how to make a pack. So maybe yours is better than mine, but I think it does like the exact same thing. So that's cool. You just need to get a rangefinder in there.
Yes, and I'm hoping to pick up one of those here in the next few days. Just trying to survey everything, make sure I get a good deal, get a good product, all that good stuff.
Nice, nice. And I think what's cool about yours that Badlands one that mine doesn't have is your little front flappy deal, the pocket on the
This one?
bottom. Yeah,
Oh, the bottom
that
one. Yeah.
yeah, that is magnetic. That's pretty cool.
Yes, that was actually the biggest selling point of it was that like I want to open it and not worry about it. I want
Yeah,
to be able to open it and or like be able to do it silently and excuse me it's also nice that it has a tether for the rangefinder in case like I don't know stuff gets hairy and I got to make like quick motions or make
Yeah.
decisions quickly, if you will. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's cool that yours has that. I basically took the lanyard from the rangefinder and then just looped it around. So I
Okay.
kind of made my own thing that does that. But no, that's pretty crucial because I don't know, that way you can just drop your rangefinder and pick up your rifle, pick up your binos, whatever, and you're good to go.
Definitely. Have you picked up anything recently? I can't remember if you had anything new on the hunt we went on.
Nothing on. No, nothing on that hunt. But one thing right after the hunt. So remember that Mossberg JM Pro that I had? I took on that one snow goose hunt, and it was really
Oh
fun.
yes, that was like Big
So,
Bertha. I felt like 9 shells. That was
so it
insane.
was a really cool gun, and I wanted to do a review of it, and then I just like never got around to it, and like it was a super fun gun to shoot, but it's
Hmm.
just not practical for anything I actually do with a shotgun. I shot a turkey with it, and I shot snow geese with it, but it's not a good turkey gun. It's fun for snow geese, but how often do I do that? So I went and traded that sucker in and got this guy. Yeah!
That's wild.
Old
Nice.
old school Marlin.
Wow.
So it's cool because I've got like so the very first deer I shot, unfortunately did not kill, but shot was with a Winchester model 1894, and so this is a Marlin 1894. So just classic lever action design. That Winchester was a 30-30, and this is a
Hmm.
44 mag. So
Whew.
the reason I got this, well, 44 mags actually, I mean, it's a big round for a revolver. For a rifle round, like, nah. But that's kind of the reason I got it, because I am going to hunt in Michigan, and their gun laws are so freaking weird. I don't know. Maybe there's people up there who are just like used to it, but for me, it was just bizarre because I'm so used to hunting Texas, where like a 30-30 is like that's your starting point, right?
Hmm.
And then you just go upward and onward for there. But I could not legally use a 30-30 in Michigan. It had to be a card. I'm trying to think of all their rules. It had to be a straight walled cartridge, so no bottleneck, no taper, nothing like
Hmm.
that. So my 270 was out. Otherwise, that was my go-to. 6.5's out. Anything like that, totally out. Um, and then it had to be over 35 caliber. So I was like, okay, straight wall cartridge over 35 caliber. What does that leave? Okay, 4570. That's a badass round. I'll get a 4570. Then it has to be less than 1.8 inches. So that doesn't leave a whole lot. So I realized,
Sure.
so this is a shotgun zone. So it's for shotgun hunting, but then they also allow muzzleloader hunting in the shotgun zone. And then they opened it up to have all those special rules. And it's basically for revolver hunters. So I was like, oh, so that kind of makes sense. Because I was thinking about it. I was like, so what fits that? Okay, over 35 caliber, less than 1.8, straight wall cartridge. Okay, 357 Magnum, 38 Special, 44 Special, 44 Magnum, 450 Bushmaster, all pistol rounds basically. And so I was like, well, what can I use to get the most out of a revolver round? So I was like, let me just go with a short action or just a short lever action carbine. And it's a pretty small gun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not big. It's compact. And it weighs, I doubt it weighs much over 6 pounds. It's pretty light. So it'll be a fun gun to shoot. And I've got the little hammer spur on there, so it's a little bit more lefty friendly. But
Yeah.
all lever actions are inherently ambidextrous, which is nice too, because being a lefty, it's a struggle. It's hard to find guns that, like, I don't know, do everything I want and then find them in left hand bolt too.
Right.
So
No
that
kidding.
that
Don't.
lever action solves all those problems for me. So
That-
now it's just gonna be the kind of the struggle, I guess. Do I want to shoot with irons? Do I want to maybe replace those irons with fiber optic sights, or do I want to put an optic on it? So I already got the optic rail. Like as soon as I got this that night on Amazon, I ordered that EGW rail. So I've got it sitting here, but it's just the internal struggle of like, do I put it on or not? So I know I can shoot better with an optic, but putting an optic on this old lever action just kind of feels like a sin almost. I mean, it just looks so good without an optic. I don't know. And it would be more practical with an optic for sure, but a red dot or a, I don't know, like a 3-9 or something, I feel like is kind of ridiculous on this, but just like a low power scope or something, I don't know. It may have a
Sure.
place.
Have
I
you
don't
shot
know.
it yet?
not yet, not yet.
Okay. And
So
that might be the tell.
what's that?
I said that might be the tell when you shoot it to see how good you are with the irons. Or I mean, I don't know. Can you go once you start going down the road of optics? Can you ever go back?
Yeah, you can take it off. I just need to not, red Loctite everything.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, you can go back. But this is also, so this isn't like a super classic. This isn't like a, I think they came out with Marlin came out with the 1894 and 44 in like early 50s or something like that. So it's not that
Mhm.
old. I think this is like a late 80s, early 90s gun. So it's
Okay.
not like some super classic collectible, but I paid about the same amount as I would pay for a new one because the new ones are just turds. Like ever since, so it's actually like a crazy issue. Like ever since Remington bought Marlin, basically they laid off like half the people who worked in the Marlin machine shop and who
Hmm.
did all the like tweaking and tuning on the guns, and it pissed a bunch of people off. And I heard there were either a bunch of machines that were out of service and nobody could fix, or disgruntled workers actually like tampered with the machines. But ever since Remington took over, they've just been horrible. And then they have that extra tanks or extra crossbolt safety. Like in my opinion, you shouldn't have an extra safety on a lever gun. Like you shouldn't have a hammer safety and a push button safety. That's just
Oh, sure.
weird.
Yeah,
And
that
it's
is
like
interesting.
plastic, and so I wanted to go for an old one, even if I paid the same as a new one. But I think something like that's gonna hold its value. So that's my new gear. So pretty exciting. Hopefully, I'll take out a northern whitetail with a 44 mag.
No kidding. That'd be pretty sweet. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the decision of the optics versus non-optics, I think setting yourself up for success is the best way to go about it. So I think whatever way you decide that possible, whether it's confidence and you feel right with a fiber optics or something like that on that gun, or you're like, I'm set up for success. I have the best chance of shooting something with an optic. I mean, go with that because you want to be confident in the stand, right? That's what matters
Yeah,
most is. It's better having a deer and having an optic that may not be as like noble or whatnot versus like not having one and sitting
noble.
and like but sitting in the blind without a deer and holding on to your like iron sight gun. I'd rather the previous versus the latter.
Yeah, goal number one is get one.
Yeah. For real.
Well, let's circle back and talk a little bit about kind of this trip from last weekend.
Oh
And
right.
so it was raining a lot. Well, actually, it was nice at first. And then the forecast just kept changing and got to the point where basically the whole last day was just miserable rain. So I wanted to briefly talk about hunting and camping in the rain in general. If there's any tips, tricks, thoughts, because I know a lot of people who are fair weather hunters and campers who are like, oh, it's raining, but nope, not even gonna chance it. So what do you think about that?
I think that we learned our lesson. We learned so many lessons at this property. I think one, it was really cool. You're right to like pull up in the truck, literally get out of the truck, and the first thing we did was hang up hammocks because it was gorgeous, and we just like relaxed for an hour and chit chatted with each other. But I think that we've learned when it comes to setting up camp, it takes longer because we actually set up camp. Like I remember one time when we were out there, we threw up camp really quickly on a Friday night. And one thing I would never do, maybe because I was more of a fair weather camper or I just never ran into bad weather, was set up the darn like extra strings on a tent.
Yep.
And we learned that lesson when the like flipping tornado more or less came through like within a mile of the ranch. And so I didn't set up on that trip and like my tent like folded in on itself. And I'm not saying it's the same amount of wind that we had this past weekend, but we had like 40-mile-an-hour gusts
Yeah.
when we were out there this past weekend. And I set up those darn like extra strings that take 9 more stakes or however many, and it worked. Like my tent stood strong. It was awesome. And so I think that's like the biggest lesson that I've learned. I think that it can still be fun in general, whether you're camping in rain or not. I think one thing that was really interesting was when we woke up on Monday morning, we thought that like the rain was just coming down in our tents, and then we like unzipped our tents, and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. You just hear that just of all the rain pounding into your rain fly, and you're like, oh, it's bad out there. It's bad.
For
Yeah.
real. And so, I mean, I don't know. We walked around, hunted some dove. I mean, we didn't necessarily do what we planned to that morning because it was crazy raining when it was sunrises out there. But overall, I don't know. I don't let the the rain deter me when it comes to hunting, come to camping, because it could still be fun. I mean, it's all an adventure no matter what.
Yeah. No, that's I mean that's the best attitude you can have about it. Man, I agree with you on when we were sitting in the tents and it sounded so much rainier than it was, and I was like not wanting to get up and get moving because of that. And I was thinking back, the weather and conditions weren't great for deer hunting anyway, but I've seen a lot of deer in a light rain. So I think in general, like when it's, crazy thunder, no, they don't like that. They don't like that at all, especially when it's really windy. But in just like a light rain, I think the deer like to get up and move because I think they're just like, well, if I'm going to literally be laying down getting rained on, I'd rather be just like up and about moving on something rather than just sitting here in the mud. So I think deer actually move pretty good in the rain. I think what we learned on dove hunting is hunt trees. Like that's kind of the only way to hunt doves in the rain, really. And I kind of saw that on my my other hunt that I did down here in Texas. We were kind of on the edge of a dove field, so it was a bunch of like dove weed, bull nettle, just like just random just junk out in the field. So they were flying in and out of that, but when it started getting rainy, they were just hopping from tree to tree. And so it was along the tree line where we got most of the birds. So in terms of dove hunting, yeah, like if it's going to be rainy, I used to always think like, okay, birds don't fly in the rain. You're just not going to see birds in the rain. No, you will, but they're not going to be, long distance cruising. They're just going to flutter from one tree to another. So I thought that was interesting.
I think that's really interesting. I think one other thing that was kind of something that I thought about this trip, something I thought about recently, and something kind of like a misconception that has been like brought about in my own mind and our conversations like over the last couple hunts is what to wear depending on the hunt. So like I think that like when we're dove hunting or like bird hunting, turkey hunting and stuff, we're like more intentional about wearing camo. But like in deer hunting, it like literally matters that you have the wind in the right spot and that you're still. Like
Yeah.
it's fascinating that we've been out on the ranch and that we were like turkey/rabbit hunting one morning, and we had that one like rabbit like jump in front of me, and it's a story where like I smoked the rabbit and was able to harvest that, and then like a deer pops up like right next to it, like Bumper was sleeping next to me.
Yeah. He was just like, whoa, what was that?
And like, granted, this deer was startled, but like it was like 2 feet from it, so I understand that. But it stared right at us for like 30 seconds, and we weren't wearing camo from what I remember. We might have been, but like we were so close to that deer, and I just remember the reason it didn't see us. I imagine because it just we didn't move,
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really interesting misconception because I remember my first hunt out there. I wasn't in, or, excuse me, first deer that I harvested out there. I wasn't wearing camo. I was wearing a black jacket and I was wearing like briar pants, like because I had like sweat through and stunk up everything else that I had worn. And so like the camo didn't matter as much. I don't know. Do you think that's true?
No, I think you're exactly right. Like, and I don't think camo is useless. I think it has its place. If you're like, especially if you're still hunting, like if you're standing up looking like a lanky human walking through the woods, yeah, I think it can help break up your form. And that's even why I had my ridiculous leafy hat in that one video. Do I
It
have it
worked.
on here? No, I don't. Well, I think it's mostly just like the shape of a human head. Like, you're just this little bobblehead looking through the woods and nothing else looks like that. It's very identical as a human. But again, that gets into shape, not necessarily the pattern. And so I think for some hunting styles, like camo can really help just because it can break up your shape, but it's nowhere near as important as being still when you need to be still and playing the wind right. Like if I could be wearing like, I don't know, a hot pink leisure suit and be in the right wind, I would take that over the world's best camo in the wrong wind. So I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, sure. And I think that like
I
I
don't own a hot pink leisure suit, by the way. That's purely hypothetical.
don't know. Fair enough. I mean, I think that we've talked about, I don't know, like, I mean, all different types of hunting and what to take when. I think one thing we were talking about that we were going to talk about this evening was shooting coyotes.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, it's a hot
Well, I should say,
topic. So,
I guess my question, you can take wherever you want to. I guess my question was, do it intentionally or do it like as like a reaction type thing? One thing I wanted to talk about.
Some of each, I think, for me. So I was reading an article. I think Steven Ranello was a guest writer on some website, and I saw a bunch of people. It was on a backpacking forum, sharing this article about, why hikers and campers should like hunters, like why we should basically get along.
Mhm.
And a lot of what they're talking about is like, well, hunters actually fund probably more conservation things than like any other group of people. And if you actually look at the number breakdown in that article, like it's kind of undeniable. But when I saw a lot of the comments, there were a lot of people who were like, okay, we get it for meat, we get it for all this stuff. But there were a lot of people who just didn't get the predator hunting aspect of it. So for me, it's twofold. I'll admit that I hunt coyotes both for a purpose and for sport, for fun. And I'll address kind of that one first because that's the one that I think a lot of people are going to have issues with, but whatever. I think it's so often when I go hunting, I'm out in the woods and I'm basically betting my hunting skills against the life of an animal who's an herbivore, who's just there, eating or sneaking through the woods or whatever. And I'm betting my skills, hoping I can get this animal.
Yeah, hide and go
Hunting a
seek.
Yeah, basically a high stakes game of hide and go seek. But hunting a predator is a little bit different because you're now betting your skills against another predator, somebody whose sole existence is based on can I kill to eat and can I be the superior being out there. And so that's why hunting coyotes can be a big challenge. But and that's what makes it fun. I've seen coyotes literally call them in from one way. They've run a full circle around me to try to win me, and then they sneak in at 20 yards and stuff. So they can do some crazy stuff. So it's a lot of fun. But I think also if we're taking the game animals, we're providing a natural imbalance to the wildlife. And so I think in order to balance that out, you need to occasionally take a predator as well. Because, or else it's basically you and the other predators ganging up on the deer. It's kind of how I think about it. But with one critical difference. So you or I, like if we're out there hunting and, we see some fawns come out, we see a doe, we see a spike, and then see a mature buck, we're going to shoot the mature buck. And then maybe we'll shoot, a mature doe. But generally, we'll let animals get old enough and big enough to be able to procreate, to be able to have offspring. But a coyote is not going to do that. A coyote is just basically going to take the easiest meal available, which is always going to be the youngest, weakest animal. And so I think when human hunters take an animal, intrinsically, like the animal we're taking, we have kind of a plan for the future. It's not all in our control. I'm not saying that, but we're intentionally choosing an animal so that we can hunt tomorrow and it's not going to mess everything up. A coyote's not thinking about that. A coyote's just wanting lunch and is going to kill the next generation. So I think it's important to, if we're putting, I don't know, a dent on the deer and these other animals, it's important to hunt the predators. What do you think?
I mean, I completely agree with you. I think that we're disrupting the um, ecosystem in a specific area. I mean, granted, ecosystems are pretty big. I mean, but I think we disrupt the areas that we go to. And so to maintain, if you will, like homeostasis, we have to balance it out. We have to take out a predator when we take out, not saying it has to be 1-to-1 or it has to be a specific ratio, but I think that us as hunters, we're trying to create a better environment that's more suitable to the animals we want to harvest being around. And so whether that's, taking the buck or taking the mature doe or taking the, not the most mature doe or not the young, but like the middle of the road healthy doe. Like I think that's important. Like I think that decision is as important as the decision of taking the predators out in the area.
Yeah.
Now, am I going to take out like eagles when I want to rabbit hunt? No. Like obviously I'm going to maintain ethics in the whole issue. But I think that there's so many coyotes. One, so it's not like they'll be missed. No offense, but like that, I really don't think that anybody's really going to miss a coyote because there's millions of them. And then I think it actually does impact the ecosystem because I know that like the coyote that I took last year, which was not a proactive like hunt, like I wasn't hunting coyotes, I was deer hunting, but a coyote came into frame and it was the second time he was seen by a hunter on the property. that we knew that he was taking some of the turkeys off the property and some of the fawns off the property, that I was like, all right, decision made. He's getting taken out. And so I was able to do that. And I think that the area is healthier for it. So I think it's appropriate. I think that I understand where you're coming from with the sport of it. I just haven't really experienced it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think your point about that, about they're taking the fawns and they're taking the turkeys. We've also created an environment where the natural habitat is actually better for coyotes because of humans. So because of people who are sheep farmers, and now there's all these lambs that are easy pickings, or all these people who have cats and small dogs in the neighborhoods. Guess what the coyotes are eating? We don't like to think about it, but I think we all know a story of somebody who's had a pet that's been nabbed by a coyote. So in a way, like, human impression on the landscape creates a more opportunistic environment for a coyote. And I think your comment about population was also right. I think for every one coyote you see, there's probably 10 more in that same area that you don't see. So I think there's no real threat of wiping out the coyotes with kind of the hunting strategy we're talking about. I think it kind of keeps them at bay so that we can get to hunt the prey without being harassed by the predators too much, but without any significant danger of wiping out the predators.
Sure. Yeah. And they're everywhere. Like, they're in the middle of cities. Like, it's still, I mean, they're going to keep on coming, but I think keeping it at bay is a good key, because honestly, without doing that, you'll have a hunt like we had with a turkey hunt, that like a coyote's just going to interrupt. Like,
yes, good comment. And for anybody watching this, if you haven't seen that video, go look on my channel. I think it's called Coyote Interrupts Turkey Hunt or something like that. Pretty crazy footage of we called in a turkey and then a coyote just busted it up. It was a pretty fun hunt.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, it was fun, it was a learning experience, but like, I don't want that happening every time.
Yeah. Well, no, and so I'm sure this is a topic that we could probably talk about for hours, but I think there's nothing wrong with killing coyotes. Our goal isn't to wipe them all out. It's just every once in a while take them, because we're taking other animals, and that's part of the balance.
Amen.
Cool. Well, any other thoughts?
Not this time around, and this is about that time. I'm empty.
Yeah, well, I still got a little ways to go, but I know you got to run. It was a little shorter episode, but for everybody watching, I hope it was fun. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't, but we'll be back. We'll hang out again. So until next time, stay safe, be free, and never stop seeking adventure.